So you're joining me today on a very cold winter's day, but in my opinion winter is the best time for scouting new areas of woodland, looking for new compositions, and that's exactly what I've set out to do today. This is purely a scouting day for me. So what my plan is that I'm going to head off, make a bit more progress on my journey, then I'm going to stop and explain why I think winter is the best time for scouting woodlands. And then hopefully I'll find at least one potential composition and I'll be able to explain what I'm thinking regarding that composition and hopefully use it to highlight why winter is so good for scouting new areas of woodland. So I'm going to head off and I'll catch up with you again in just a minute. So the reason that I think winter is the perfect time for scouting new areas of woodland is because there is either no foliage or next to no foliage on the trees. This reveals very interesting characters and shapes and structures in the trees themselves. So you may find a tree which suddenly becomes a very interesting subject, or a collection of trees which almost interact together. When you're looking around, when the trees are covered in foliage, you can't actually see through that often to really see the true shape and structure of the tree itself. So for example, at other times of the year, there's a number of locations I know well, and there's a number of trees that I like to photograph, but when there's foliage on them, there is no composition there. You can't actually see much of the branches or the tree itself. But come winter time, all the foliage is gone off the tree, a very interesting character is revealed, lots of twisting, interesting shapes and so on. So that's why I think winter is perfect for scouting. So I may find compositions that I think that's really going to work well in winter in the correct conditions. Also, I find in winter it's extremely easy to visualize how trees could potentially look in spring or with a nice autumn colour when there's more foliage on it. I don't find the reverse is true. When trees are covered in foliage and you can't see their shape, their structure, their branches, there's no way to visualise how they could potentially look in winter when there's no foliage on them. So I really feel I'm getting the best of both worlds by scouting at this time of year. I could find compositions that work now because there's no foliage on the trees, and I can potentially visualise how they will look in spring or autumn with some nice colour. So I really do think winter is the best time for scouting around new areas of woodland, looking for some new potential compositions. But for today I'm going to continue on my journey, and I'm hoping to find maybe at least one new composition which I can talk you through and explain what I'm thinking about, whether it works now or I'm potentially visualizing it working at another time of year. So I better get going. So you should be able to see behind me here in the distance, I've came across this little collection of trees here, and you can hopefully see how interesting the shape certainly looks, at least from this angle. Now, chances are at other times of the year when there's more foliage here, I potentially may not have seen anything interesting just by glancing my eyes across this scene. But at the moment this has caught my interest and I'm wanting to go over and explore. So I'm going to head over there, and what I'm going to do is take you through the scene just as I'm finding it, discovering it for the first time, and talk you through what I think about it, whether there's a potential composition and whether or not I think it's going to work in winter or where it could be better at other times of the year. So I'm just approaching this scene and I want you to see it just as I'm discovering it as well, and I'll talk you through what I'm thinking. So apologies if the video work is not up to a high standard, but I'm really just looking around the scene and trying to show you it at the same time. So that's the tree that caught my interest over there in the distance. Hopefully you can see why. Now, before I even start looking for a composition, the first thing I'm thinking here is that this is a scouting day, but because of the way the light is, this is purely going to be a concept shot. So I'm going to hopefully find something that works I can return to another time. The reason for that is the patchy light. It's too bright, it's too patchy, and this scene is never going to really work today. I'm also seeing some areas of sky coming through the trees there, which I think could be a bit distracting today. So that's a tree. It's very interesting. Could make a composition from here, but looking down, there's quite a lot of interest down there. We've got a fallen tree, we've got a stream as well. And looking around a bit more, we've got this tree here, we've got another tree here, there at this other side of this rather interesting valley down here. So there's potential to frame the little stream with the trees on either side. Now, one thing I do like about the light, but the scene isn't going to work overall, is that that tree off in the distance is at the end of the stream here, is getting some nice light on it. So if the rest of the scene was evenly lit and there was just a nice patch of light hitting that, that would work quite well, but I don't think that's going to be it. That's not going to be the way it turns out at the moment. I don't think. There's just patchy light everywhere. So I'm actually going to move down nearer this stream and just see how the scene looks from there. So I will resume my video in just a second. So I've had a look around this scene and it's quite interesting. There's definitely potential here and it's something I'm going to return to. As you can hopefully see, I don't think the light is at its best today, although it's quite pleasant to be here, nice to look at. It's just not going to work in terms of a photograph. The light is too patchy and it just drags your eye all over the scene. But I think this is quite a nice angle that I'm at the moment to take the scene from. So we've got the winding river, we've got that interesting end point there, that tree, and we've got this rather interesting tree in the right which first caught my attention, and we've got some nice ones on the left, and we've got the valley as well. So we've got some nice framing leading you through to that tree in the distance. Now there's potential to take in some of these fallen trees and branches from the bottom right of the image as a nice leading line, but what I don't like about that is you're taking in too much of the blue sky through the trees. So unless we get some different conditions, that's not really an option. But I just think visually the image works nice. The valleys coming in from either side, the trees leaning in from the left, the tree leaning in from the right through to that central point. This is a scouting exercise. I'm really delighted to have found this, but it's not going to work today. How I visualise this working is if we get some mist. You can imagine if there was some nice mist in this little valley here, it would add some atmosphere. Or if we get a lot of heavy snow and there's some snow here and maybe some snow on the trees, that could look really good. So that's when I'm thinking it will be at its best in winter time. But come spring, there should be some interesting growth in these trees. There's lots of dead leaves everywhere on the floor. So come spring, there could be a nice splash of spring colour, or indeed potentially autumn. We can imagine this scene with some nice autumn colour. And I think that could look really good as well. So what I'm going to do is just get set up with my camera. I won't show you that boring bit, and get the scene framed up, take the image when hopefully the sun goes behind a cloud, so you can see the scene looking a little bit flatter than the contrasty light we've got at the moment. And that'll be my concept shot. I can then review that at home, find out if have I nailed the composition or do I need to make any minor adjustments. Then when I think the conditions are at their best, I can return here with confidence and just capture the image that I've visualized. So I've been doing some more exploring and I'm seeing this rather interesting, impressive, huge tree behind me here, which I'm going to head in and explore. So I'll take you with me as I do that. But I can actually see from here, behind it, off in the distance, there's some interesting trees which are at an angle. They're sort of lying over, they're probably uprooted. They're catching some soft, subtle lighting. So I definitely think there's a potential photograph here which I'll take you over to just now and we'll see what we can find. So I'm just approaching this tree which caught my interest and I'm trying to let you see roughly what I'm seeing. Of course you'll have a different field of view on the video compared to what my eyes are seeing, but it is looking promising. I need to watch my feet, there's lots of things to trip over. But this is a tree on the left which caught my attention. It's a, quite frankly, huge, impressive tree. Looking at it and what's on the ground, I believe it's a beech tree. Now it's got some really nice branches coming out and I'm seeing potential for using those as framing at the top of my image. But I need to be a bit mindful of the ones coming in from the right. I probably won't want to be including them in any image. And I'm thinking in spring or perhaps autumn there could be some nice foliage to just provide some nice framing at the top and the right hand side of my image. I need to be mindful of the sky, but considering there would be potentially a lot of foliage here, that may block out a lot of the sky and it won't be an issue. And getting the camera angle correct as well could help with that. Now the background here is also interesting. If I just move in a little bit closer, we've got some trees that go off at a diagonal. I believe that's them there that I'm pointing at, and I noticed those from the distance. There's some nice soft lighting on them. Actually there's some subtle soft side lighting on this tree at the moment as well. Then we've got another tree which goes off. So we've got the diagonal going off to the right, the diagonals going off to the left. And if I position myself carefully, I could align things up quite nicely. I need to be mindful of these three trees here as well. But I'll never be able to show you the exact shot I'm thinking of on this video camera. So I'm going to get set up and take what is a concept shot. I really don't think I can capture this scene at its best today, but this is the whole point of scouting. I've seen something here which I'm definitely keen to work with. I really like the alignment of the trees off in the distance. This canopy here covered in foliage, spring colour, autumn colour, could be really nice as well. If I was taking this shot in winter, I think it could work, but I think I would want some snow on the ground or perhaps some mysterious mist off in the distance in those trees. But I'm kind of leaning towards spring or autumn for this shot, unless we get some really nice misty conditions or some really nice snow. But for the moment I'm going to get my X-T3 set up and take a concept shot, and I'll give you a look at that so you can sort of see what I'm visualizing down the line in terms of capturing this image at its best. So I've captured a concept type shot of the scene behind me and the lighting has actually been okay. So I've got an image which I think will work quite well, but I still suspect maybe with some spring or autumn colour in the foliage that will appear on these branches, it could potentially look even better. So I'm going to revisit this scene and try and capture that image. But you may be able to see with the tree behind me here just how large and wide and impressive it is. It's really quite a tree, and I do like the nice little setting that it finds itself in. But I'll show you the concept shot that I've captured, and I think I'm going to call it a day for now. I've covered quite a lot of ground and I'm really pleased with the two scenes that I've found, and I really think, or at least I hope, that shows the beauty of scouting for woodland locations in winter. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you hopefully in my next one.